Please welcome to the stage one of my mentors who's going to teach you on influence into affluence, 5 ways creators can build massive wealth by transforming audiences into assets. Give an incredible warm round of applause to Mr. Roland Frasier. Give it up for Roland.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here. So this is not a presentation that I have ever given before, because I gave the presentation that Pete is talking about, or at least the latest version of it, earlier. So I'm going to be uncharacteristically brief this time. Normally I have 8 million slides and the guys up there are going, I don't think the computer will render these fast enough. But this is, I just want to share a different concept. Because of this being the influencer and creator room, I want to speak specifically to influencers and creators. So as Pete mentioned, the biggest challenge that we have when we are dependent on creating content continuously to have money come in is that we are a dancing bear. And when we stop dancing, then, my favorite picture, the money stops, right? We become the crying bear. And I, for any of you that have listened to me, I talk about a conversation that Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins were having that they told me about, and Tony said to Dean, we're dancing bears, and if we keep doing this, we will ultimately stop, because Tony's had trouble with his voice, and there's a lot of challenges that can come. And if that happens, then you don't get any money anymore. And so he said, I'm going to write this book called Money Master the Game. And he wrote it, and he said, I'm going to do a deal with a fund manager. If I can get $1 billion under management, then I'll be able to take care of my family and my lifestyle for the rest of my life. Last time I checked, he had $2 billion under management. So that was a book that he created to create an asset from his audience, right? To turn the influence that he had into affluence, and to take the asset of the audience and turn that into something that was more significant. So that's what I want to kind of talk with you about. So how can you turn your influence into affluence and transform your audience into actual assets? And so when I was thinking about giving this talk, and I just put this together yesterday, by the way, so no one has ever seen it. But I was thinking about, well, what is an asset, just so that we can be clear, because I believe that your audience is a significant asset. The problem is that it sits with someone else if you are dependent on social. And I have a lot of friends that make tens of millions of dollars a year off of just social, but they don't own the audience. That's changing now with BitClout and forms of blockchain companies that allow you to take your audience with you. I would be eager, if I were you and I was a creator, to say, how can I get my audiences built so that they can be portable to me? But as property owned by a person or company having value and available to meet debts commitments are legacies. Legacies, to me, is kind of interesting, because that implies that it's something that's going to live beyond you. And your content might or might not live beyond you, but the assets that you can create with it will. And wealth being an abundance of valuable possessions or money. I like the state of being rich, right? So my goal for you is to give you 5 ways that you can take your influence and turn that into some sort of affluence. The first is to be an equity ambassador. So there are lots of companies that have programs that are called ambassador programs. And what they're doing is they're effectively building wealth on the backs of the influencers that they use. And what's really interesting is they've done studies that show that the people who are smaller influencers are much, much more connected authentically with their audience. And so these micro-influencers are a way better way to build a business than to go to, say, Kim Kardashian or somebody like that. More effective, and definitely more bang for the buck. So you've got several companies that have built $20 million businesses, right? That have built billion-dollar valuations, or that have built hundreds of millions of dollars in sales off the backs of small influencers, people like us, honestly, right? And so my question to you is, why not build wealth for yourself instead? Why build wealth for other people when you can build it for yourself? So the goal here would be that you're receiving ownership in these companies instead of the pittance that they are willing to pay, right? And so I created a worksheet for you to figure out how you might calculate this. And the way that I would go about it is I'd say, okay, so what type of influencer are you? There are several types. Are you a nano influencer? Do you have, I think, 1,000 to 10,000 people? That's a nano influencer. So what does a post cost on Instagram for a nano influencer? If I'm a company, I'm going to pay you $10 to $100 for that post. But if I want you to be my on the regular basis, then I'm going to probably ask for 2 posts 52 weeks a year. 2 posts a week, 52 weeks a year, 104 posts, right? So I'm going to do a deal with you for a year. That's going to be somewhere between $1,000 and $10,000 roughly, okay? So then I'm going to say, okay, well, if I am you or I am me with somebody else and I'm negotiating to be an influencer for them on an equity basis, I'm going to say, look, I'm giving up the cash. I'm giving up the cash, so I want a return on my giving up the cash. I want something for doing that. So I'm going to want, in terms of valuation for equity in your business, 4 times the value of the cash that I would receive. Now, you might be able to negotiate more if you're a bigger influencer or slightly less if you're not, but I definitely wouldn't go much under 4. So I'm going to multiply what I would have otherwise received in cash by 4, which means I'm going to get somewhere between $4,000 and $41,000 in equity valuation. And then we'll talk about how does this translate into actual equity in a second. Now, maybe you're a little bit bigger influencer, right? You're a micro influencer, and so you've got 10,000 to 100,000. How many people have 10,000 to 100,000 fans on any social here? Okay, cool. All right, awesome, great. So for you guys, what you do is your going rate right now is between $100 and $500 a post on Instagram. It's different on different platforms, but I think Instagram is a good benchmark. So that means that if we did the 104 posts and we had a 1-year contract, then you're between $10,000 and $50,000 roughly. So 4 times that means that your equity interest, it's kind of like you're buying stock, if you will, in the company that you're working with, and you're making an investment of somewhere between $40,000 and a couple $100,000. So you're going to get equity instead. And you can see how it adds up pretty quickly, right? Because you can do this with multiple companies, and effectively, so if you are on the high side of micro, you do 5 of these deals, you could have $1 million of equity in companies. Now here's what's cool too. You don't pay taxes on that until you sell it or receive it if you do it right? There are ways to structure that as a profits-only interest or a phantom stock agreement or something like that, whereas you would have paid taxes and lost up to half, let's say, of the payments that they gave you. Instead of that, you'll be able to take that in equity, not pay taxes on it, and have all of the appreciation that all of these company owners are getting by paying just a few dollars to have people post for them. So if you're a mid-level influencer, does anybody here fall into this category, 50 to 500? Okay, a few of you, great. So then it starts to get really interesting. So now you're talking about $500 to $5,000 a post, $52,000 to $520,000. That puts you between $200,000 and $2 million. So now if there's a company that's worth $10 million, you're talking about a 20% interest, right? And macro, 500,000 to $1 million. Those are 5 to 10. So 520,000 to $1 million, which would put you at $2 to $4 million in equity, and then the sky's the limit after that. You're Kim Kardashian. Is Kim in the audience? Okay, all right. So then you're at 10,000 plus a post, up to whatever those people are getting these days. So on the low side, you'd be around $4 million. So now we say, okay, well, how much equity do I get in the business? So we would say on the right side, what is the advertising equity value? You see the ranges there. And then we divide that by the valuation of the company that you're doing business with. That company will have some sort of valuation. You can argue about what it is, but ultimately it's worth something. If it's a company that's raised money, the valuation is easy to figure out. It's what they were valued at in the last round. If they haven't yet raised money, then it's a little bit more of a negotiation, but there are charts on what valuations of companies are. You can go to BVR, Business Valuation Resources, or the NYU Stern School of Business, or Equidam. Those are all resources that will give you multiples, or you can just go ask your friend Google. Then the answer to that is the equity percentage you would want. So in our example, let's say that you are a micro-influencer. You're between 10,000 and 100,000 fans. We're going to go on the high side of the post because we're negotiating, right? We are negotiating. So we're going to say, typically it's going to be $500 a post. Okay, great. And that means that if we do a 2 times a week post deal, that's going to be a $52,000 contract. So I'm going to multiply that by 4 times to get my equity value, because I'm doing a cool deal here. You don't have to pay cash. You can use that cash to grow the company, which can be worth a whole lot more than that. And then I'm going to put that down here in the add equity box. That's going to be $208,000. Let's say that this was a company that was valued at $2 million. I'm going to divide one by the other, and then that gives me that I'm going to get roughly a 10% interest in that company. Okay? So being an equity ambassador is a fantastic way to get tax-free wealth that will then turn into a whole bunch of money if they sell, but if they don't, you've also got 10% of their profits, right? So it's kind of fun because you get to ride along with them the whole way. Whereas otherwise you would have been paid, maybe you would have been paid $50,000, right? And then that's it. But they end up with hundreds of millions in sales. You should get part of that. That is absolutely where things are moving, okay? That's absolutely where social deals are moving. The second one is to be your own influencer. So you see this a lot. This is when you are going to be the own influencer for your products or services, okay? So the Hollywood celebrities get this. You know, why don't we? It's actually funny because there's a lot of people in here who sold their company, including, I think the first one I'm going to show you is Reese Witherspoon just sold her company to Blackstone for $900 million. This is a company she formed a couple of years ago to produce media like Big Little Lies and things like that. $900 million. Here's what's funny. We were negotiating with Reese to be one of our celebrities for this event, and then she sold the company and said, I don't think I'm going to do it, right? So, but she took what would otherwise be in the past, what these celebrities would do is they'd be inauthentic endorsers. And you don't want to be an inauthentic endorser because that is so out, right? That's pay me a fee for something that I might or might not even use. And then we saw kind of a trend towards these influencers saying, well, I'm only going to do deals with people whose products I actually use. But then they watched as those companies got built and sold for hundreds of millions of dollars and said, you know what? We want to be part of that. We want equity in that. You saw has anybody had Casamigos tequila? A couple people? Yeah. So George Clooney sold Casamigos, and it was kind of interesting if you read the background story of that. They just wanted a tequila that didn't burn, that they could drink all day long. I want to hang out with George Clooney, right? I want a tequila I can drink all day long without it burning my throat so much. I'm okay if I get totally wasted, right? But they sold it for $1 billion, okay? And then Ryan Reynolds, who we were also negotiating with for next year's TNC, don't know if that'll happen or not, has sold his his aviation gin company for $610 million. So you're seeing more and more and more the celebrities doing this. And if you look at the valuations of the companies that they've been involved with, Dre had Beats, right? Apple bought it, $3 billion valuation. Riri with Fenty, right? She has crossed over into the self-made billionaire with her deal with LVMH. You got Kobe's interest in Body Armor, Kylie being, I think, the youngest now self-made female billionaire. George, obviously, with the billion-dollar company. Jessica Alba with Honest. And what's cool is if you look across these kinds of, if you look at the products that they're doing, so Beats it's audio products and headphones, right? It's very diverse. Rihanna is cosmetics, right? And it's and skincare and things like that. Kobe is apparel. Kylie is makeup. George is liquor. Liquor's a good one. By the way, you can do your own custom wine or your own custom spirits. It's not hard. They all have programs to do that, even if you have a small audience. Jessica did it with products for babies and then kind of expanded on that. Ryan Reynolds with booze. Kate Hudson with athletic wear. And then Gwyneth Paltrow, who was supposed to be here, who was almost here, but had a scheduling conflict for this time because I had to find a replacement for Snoop really, really fast, has Goop, right? And so she's done that, a $250 million valuation. These probably weren't even worth doing. You know, Bethany Frankel's got her paltry $110 million with Skinny Girl, and then Russell Wilson with Trace Me. But the products are kind of telling too. So if you're trying to figure out what are things I could do on a small basis, find startups in these categories, right? These companies have already chosen their influencers. They've already made their money, so they're not going to do anything except pay you a post fee. But what you can do is you can go to startups in each of the categories of these companies and cut deals with them for equity, right? Now here's what's cool. If you have only equity, you are broke until it sells. So don't just take equity. You can take equity with a distribution of your pro rata share of ownership. Now as profits get distributed, you are getting cash too. Okay, there are a lot of people who have done this, apps. And these are people who are smaller influencers. They just don't have huge followings. But look, Kayla, $46 million a year with a fitness app. $46 million a year with a fitness app. Or with your own products. Jackie, Aina, I believe is how you pronounce it, a $10 million business just with candles. And these are not people that have giant followings, not millions and millions. Mariana, 4.8 million with cosmetics, always a good one. You can do it with your own service too. So my friend Perry, who hopefully you guys heard speak about artificial intelligence and stuff, he is doing $40,000 a month. He doesn't have a ton of followers. He doesn't have a giant group of people, but has an agency that does virtual assistant services called ScaleWin that he turned that tiny little bit of celebrity that he's got into $40,000 a month. I did it with a following that I built through LinkedIn and Facebook, and I have, I think, 15,000 followers on Instagram. Not a ton, right? Not giant influencer, but that generated $5 million in service fees from a product called Epic that I launched when the pandemic started, right? $5 million side hustle is pretty cool. Every $5 million helps. So the way, if you're trying to figure out in a like a startup situation as opposed to using the first thing that we talked about for the equity model. So here, maybe you are going to find someone to partner with, because that's really what all of these celebrities did. They, even though Clooney did the formulation for the tequila Casamigos with his buddies for I think a couple of years before they got it exactly where they wanted it. He was like very active in that, but he needed a partner to really get the thing to where it was going to be. You will probably want a partner so that you don't have to do everything. So when you're looking at how can you create a partnership, the way that I think is really effective is using the slicing pie method. So Mike Moyer wrote a book called Slicing Pie. I think everything is still free on his site. He's a great guy. I did a podcast interview with him. If you go listen to Business Lunch, that's a free podcast where I picked his brain and didn't have to pay him any money. And what he talks about is a really specific way of how you can figure out who should own what in partnerships, okay? So I would definitely check that out. Then, I like to think about, like, how can I decide which deals to greenlight? So the easy way to do it is to say, what's your existing audience's wants and needs? And it's kind of cool because this also follows what Martha Stewart talks about with need, want, void. So we have our existing audience that we've already got. What are their needs and wants? And then what are you actually interested in? Because to me, you should never do anything that you don't actually like to do, okay? And then what is the void that is not filled of the wants and needs that your audience has? So how do you monetize each of these things? Okay, well, let's say that your, and it doesn't show up as well as I wish it did, but let's say that your wants and needs overlap with some of the passions that you've got. Your audience's wants and needs overlap with some of the passions you've got. Well, that's cool. That's a affiliate play. You can, if you've got, there's no void in the market, then there are already products that are servicing the need. So you can take your celebrity, your following, and you can do affiliate offers to them, right? It's something that you like. You don't have to do any work. You're just sharing it with them. If, however, there is a void and there is a passion, but you don't actually have that audience, then you get to go to centers of influence. And you go to centers of influence who have the audience that you want, and now you've connected that through a partnership, okay? If you have your audience's wants and needs that don't match your passion, but there is a void, again, you can do affiliate products. So there's a huge room for affiliate products, and also affiliate product testing is a great way for you to decide what partnership you might want to strike in the future to do a slicing pie deal or an ambassador deal. But when they all three overlap, that is a green light, because you have an audience that has interests that align with your passion, and there's a void in the market that is not being filled. That's money. And it's fun money, because you get to do something that you actually really like doing and make a bunch of money doing it. Okay, so when you're brainstorming this, the way I would do it is the very first thing is say, what are all of your passions? And after you make that list, say, and I put a couple of samples here for you. What are all your passions? And then who is your audience currently? What do they want, need the most? And last but not least, what is the void in the market? So when we go through and we identify all of these things, now we've got an idea where we might want to go, okay? Strategy 3, licensing deals. So licensing deals are awesome. They don't require you to do anything except lend your celebrity to someone else's deal. This would be how Kathy Ireland, who left her modeling career years ago, has a $500 million net worth. Martha Stewart, who we got to talk with yesterday, just got inducted into the Licensing Hall of Fame because she has done more license deals than I bet she can remember, right? It's a fantastic way to go. And then even Pete, our good old Pete, right? He took this stuff and has done amazing with it. So Pete has fantastic ways, systems to get people into events, to do virtual events, to do trainings, and to monetize. And he's licensed that to several people we know, like Dean Graciosi and Grant Cardone and Tony, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do with influence that you've got that you've built up markets and systems around to license those to other people. And my buddy Frank Kern, same thing, license deals with Dean. So if you're thinking about how could you do a license deal, then this is the licensing worksheet that we use when we're trying to come up with these. So we say, what is the audience's wants and needs that for the audience that we've got right now? Are there any other existing products or services that match those wants and needs? And then who would we go and do a license deal with? Because if we've already got some of their market already, they're going to be very eager to talk to us about that. And you'd be amazed. I mean, Martha Stewart had a tiny little catering company in Westport, Connecticut, and got approached after her first book by Kmart and ended up turning that license deal into a product manufacturing deal. Strategy 4, funding for your business. So funding for your business. So this is where you are able to go to your audience and raise money. Pete said he raised for charity $600,000 last night, right? Pete has a small but amazing following, right? And I mean, he's got a great following, but not like 40 million followers. But yet he was able to get a bunch of people on a boat last night and raise $600,000 for charity. So you can do fundraising for charity, you can do fundraising for businesses, and get equity for that. So this is turning your audience and your relationship with them into the ability to raise money for other people. And if you go online, there are actually equity crowdfunding influencers who do nothing but deals like this. They help people raise money for investments in other companies. You can do that as well. Okay, and then for the workshop for that would be, worksheet for that would be take your audience's interests, list all of those, and then find the startups that have the products and services that your customers want. Then go to them and say, let me help raise money for your company and give me equity in exchange for doing that, okay? And you can do this with your own deals. So Dan Fleshman has done this for his investments. So Dan has all these investments that he does. He goes out and finds a company he wants to invest in, and then he puts together with his influencers events like this that are filled with people who are interested in finding out what is he doing now, and he gives them the opportunity to invest in his deals. And so he's got all this equity in all these cool deals that he absolutely loves, and he's just doing that by monetizing his influence. Also, Kent Clothier, a business partner of mine who raises money to buy houses with his his people who are following him, right? So he puts out, hey, I'm getting ready to invest in this kind of house, and I'm going to flip it, and then would you like to come in on the deal with me? So he's able to turn that influence into the asset of a house that he then partners with each of these people who make that investment. So real estate. And then another business partner of mine, Jeff Fenster, who founded Everbowl, has turned his influence into the ability to create a restaurant chain, and I think we're at 154 restaurants in that right now. So it's really cool to watch. Look at the numbers for these guys. Like, they're not big numbers. And that's really important, because if you're thinking that you can't monetize what you've got in terms of followers right now, you can, because a lot of people are doing it. Okay, and then the fifth one is to build a media network. So this is something that famous people have done a good job of, like Oprah, right? She's done it a few times. And this is something that another business partner of mine, Chris Crone, has done as well. And basically what you're doing here is you're using your existing media, meaning your existing followers across all of your social media, to launch other influencers within a single network that you own. So this is something where we have taken, Chris has about 3 million views a day across all of his social media. And that's a cool business for him. And he's done all of the things that I've shared with you here today and raised a bunch of money, makes a lot of money a year. But he said, I'm a dancing bear. How do I turn this into money? And I said, well, let's build a media network. So we have gone into Uplife together to create a really cool media network where we take his influence and we leverage it to take other people who have not really, who have missing capabilities within their businesses to get equity in their businesses by propping them up through media we've got, okay? So you can see HubSpot acquired, this happens all the time, just to show you, Sam Parr was able to sell the Hustle to HubSpot for $27 million. Right? That's one little media thing that they did. $300 million sale to Amazon of a podcast network. So here's how you put this together. You say, what are all of the interests that my audience has currently? And then who are the subject matter experts that would appeal to my audience that already have products and services? So what's cool about this is it means that you're looking for people that already can serve your audience with content, because that's how we market on social. Then you're saying, I also want them to have products and services that are already selling, but aren't fully optimized. Why? Because now I don't have to go and create a whole bunch of products, and I've got something that's already had some level of traction and has some happy customers. Then I say, what are the missing media and business capabilities for this? So I might make a list of a whole bunch of people who are influencers in the real estate space, right? Or I might make a list of all of the interests that my audience might have if I'm in the real estate space. Then I'm going to say, who has products and services that satisfy each of those things? And I was able to identify a bunch of influencers that do. And then I'm going to say, well, what are they not really good at? Well, there's a whole lot of things they're not really good at. Maybe they don't have a sales team. A lot of people are really good online, but they don't have actual physical salespeople talking to people live. That can literally double or triple your business. Maybe they are only on one media and they suck at it. Maybe they're missing out on TikTok. Maybe there are huge gaps in the traffic channel grid that they're not meeting, right? Maybe they've got a lousy back office. A lot of these people are really good at sharing content and really bad at running their business, right? Really bad at running their business. So here's another thing is if you are sitting here and you're not an influencer and you're saying, there's no way I would ever be able to monetize my audience, then provide some of these missing capabilities and do an equity deal with an influencer that way, right? So there's a lot of ways for you to be able to monetize this. And so what we've done is we have 25 people at $4 million a year. A $4 million business can be built in a month. In the world we're in right now, it can be a lot bigger than that, but it's pretty easy. So 25 people at 4 million, that's a $100 million company you can build in 6 months. It's pretty crazy the opportunity that exists in building media networks, and the world of investment banking is starved for media networks. So it's a really great time to be doing this. So the dancing bear beating strategies are to be an equity ambassador. That's where we are going to be an ambassador for a company, but instead of taking our normal post fee, we're going to do an annualized deal or a multi-year deal, and we're going to get equity in exchange for that. We've got be your own influencer, create your own product partnership with somebody who has the capabilities you don't, like the ability to make liquor or have a distribution channel or whatever. And then be your own influencer and create a business that way. Do licensing deals, and then fund other people's deals for equity by tapping your audience who's interested in investing, because all of us have investors in our audiences. And then last but not least, build a media network where you're able to leverage the media that you currently have with other people who are missing business or media capabilities that exist. That is it. And I think, Pete, I'd like for you to talk a little bit about your platform university deal too, if you would.
So I'm going to keep him up here because we're going to take a couple of questions, but let me share the strategies in real life. Can I do that? So Roland, I heard a talk similar to this. Hey, this is game changing. Like, it took me, how many six-figure business owners do we have in the room? Keep your hands up high, please. How many seven-figure business owners do we have in the room? Drop your hands if you're not. How many eight-figure business owners do we have in the room? Keep them up high. Don't be shy, sir. I know you're humble, but I want the people to see how it decreases. Anybody have multiple eight? Multiple eight? Okay.
Half raised hand.
Is half raised? Any? Yeah. Yes, we got one. You got two, you got three. Four. Listen, it gets really difficult to get to that point. But the thing that Roland showed me last November of 2020, when Michael Hyatt said he was selling Platform University, and it had an email list of 100,000 people, it had 3,000 active reoccurring customers paying a monthly fee. It had hundreds of pieces of content. You think of it as content. I think of it as an intellectual property that became my intellectual property. I have intellectual property. I don't need you to like him, any of these people, or love them, but I have intellectual property that has Dave Ramsey in it, Michael Hyatt in it, and lots of big names in it. That's my IP. All of that was purchased.
But the best part is that he was your number one affiliate for one of your products.
Exactly. All of that was purchased. Listen, what Roland just alluded to is we bought that, and I can now say this publicly, for $1.25 million. But it was already generating $1 million in revenues when I purchased that asset.
For him.
For me.
Just
for
him. Just him.
Just
right. So Pete had Michael's Platform University as an affiliate for Pete's stuff, and that sold, let's say it was a 50-50 just for easy math, that sold $2 million worth of Pete's stuff to that audience, and then Pete paid an affiliate commission of 50% or $1 million for that. So he's with only his money that he doesn't have to pay out anymore. He got that $1 million, by the way, every single year now, back. So worst case, he makes it back in a year and a half. But it's better because that was only what Pete was getting paid, right? That's only what of Pete's product that was being sold. They do affiliate offers every month. Yeah. Every month. is crazy, right? So the ability to buy into that existing influence, or if you are on the other side, if you're Michael, he's got an asset that he can sell for a whole bunch of money. So either way, you win.
Yeah, the crazy thing, and I just want to make sure, because this is one of my smartest mentors that I have.
I'm so sorry.
No, he is one of my smartest mentors. Like he is literally what he just said. I hope you catch the gold. I had $1 million of revenues coming in from day one. One of the things Roland told me to negotiate in is last year he was an affiliate for your other company. Watch this, Advance Your Reach. And he did $500,000. Why don't you build into your deal structure that he'll do 5 promotions for you over the course of the next 3 years?
That's crazy though, then the business would pay for itself.
It paid for itself, you told me that, he forgot that. But, so I had $1 million coming in revenues. I had 5 partner promotional deals that we've only done 2 of them. We've still got 3 more left that he's promoting either this product that we just bought for him or another product of ours that we already had in our database. I got the email list, the content, 25,000 past customers, all of that. Now, some of you are sitting in here saying, I can't buy a platform university. Cool. We have a stage agency. Who's part of the stage agency in this room? I know several of you have registered. This is Casey. I know we actually put you on stages. I alluded that I'm going to give a TNC stage away. You asked for permission later. For next year, you asked for apology later, right? Is that how it goes?
Forgiveness.
Yeah, forgiveness. Thank you.
I'm sure we can work something out.
Okay.
Now that I know my leverage negotiating-wise.
So there was a young lady in the back who had a boutique agency. And she could get it so far. Dolores, who was part of our, everybody waved to Dolores over there. I want you to see this. This is all Roland's influence on me. She had a little boutique agency serving 8 to 10 clients and was doing a powerful job because I called all of the clients. But she couldn't scale the agency to the next level because I had the media to scale the agency to the next level. But she already had done a lot of the hard work, not all of the hard work, but a lot of the hard work that I didn't want to have to go in and start from scratch to figure out how we're going to set up pods and agents and all of that. She had already done that work. So we went and acquired it for no money down and allowed her to continue to have a stake in the new division that we're going. It's the fastest growing piece of our business because there's not another done-for-you stage agency that exists in the United States or in any other country that I know. No money down. He likes to hear those deals better.
No money out of pocket.
No money out of pocket.
Yeah.
No money out of pocket.
Yeah.
And I'm still happy.
And she's still happy.
That's what's great. It's win-win. Always.
You hear that? She's still happy. That's the second one. I promise this is the third one.
But what she got, right, was she got to scale her media at no cost, and she has a smaller piece of a bigger pie. So she's ahead. He got to scale himself labor-wise infinitely because he doesn't have to do any of that work, and now he is monetizing his media in another channel that he didn't have before. And by the way, agencies actually have value, so they both win because they'll be able to exit that business for multiples and multiples of what it was worth before. It's awesome. I mean, everything we talk about is the old model is win-lose. You lose because you got paid a tiny little bit of money for all of the work that you did to build up your media. This is win-win. You get to be paid as a creator or influencer, the other people get to be paid, and private equity, which is just crazy dumb money right now, is going to pay you to exit your business.
I'm not going to tell you about my third acquisition, but I'm going to tell you about what happened this last year. In January of 2020, I can't believe this. Like, it just blows my mind away. I sat in Roland's talk, and you have your net income. Other people refer to EBITDA. It's just after all your expenses and your taxes and all of that, and you want a multiple on that. And if you don't know this, they sold this, you've said this publicly, they sold this event for like huge on multiple, like.
Yeah, we're not allowed to say what we did, but we sold it, fortunately, we sold it in 2018.
2018, this event, and still have some stake in the.
We still have 20%, yeah.
20% of this event. So I want you to see this. When I was sitting in that talk, I would have got a 1 on my EBITDA. So if my EBITDA was $1 million, I'm only going to make $1 million because I was the dancing bear. Last year, there was a group, a legitimate equity group that actually purchased Gino Wickman's company and a lot of other people's company, and they did their due diligence on my company. And they presented an offer in the first quarter of it was after COVID, so it was later, after COVID, third quarter of 2020. And I got a 3 on EBITDA. Now, it still wasn't enough for me.
That's also opening offer just fishing, by the way, not anywhere close to what
I should be. But I legitimately, they said, like, what you've done is they didn't say I'm not the dancing bear, but essentially I was no longer the dancing bear. I 3 times the value, probably could have gotten 5 at the end of the day. So I 5 times the value of my company from removing myself as the guy that everything revolved around. That is the impact that what Roland talked about today, if you will really begin to wrap your mind around one of these strategies.
If you want a lot of additional really cool stuff, I've got a whole channel full of it, and you should subscribe so that you don't miss any of it, because I'm uploading videos all the time. There's a lot of things that are changing in this area, and you don't want to miss out. You don't want to do it wrong, and you don't want to make the mistakes I made. Subscribe so that you don't miss out, and then check out this next video.